Okay, so this isn't going to be the usual video. I'm going to talk about an experience that I had last week at Barnes& Noble. This is one of those little reality glitches, one of those things that makes you question reality or, I mean, in general, your own sanity. I'm pretty sure there's of course a way to explain it, and I'll explain it in a couple ways. But I think that it would be best explained by somebody who works in a Barnes & Noble or a bookstore that would usually come across the same situation or scenario that I went through. So, some background. You never find too many over-encompassing books on philosophy. There's a few out there, but those I've already read through. Other than that, you can buy, the works of Aristotle, Plato, individual books. You can look into all the different branches, and of course, you shouldn't just buy one inclusive book and just go by that. But I usually like having something like that around, usually for a reference most of the time. And so if I can ever come across something of that nature, it's definitely to get my eye. For example, the Story of Psychology by Morton Hunt, which is basically more historical than, actually explaining all the processes. But that's a really good overall encompassing book about literally the story of psychology. So things like that, either way, I like. And so I'm walking around Barnes & Noble, which if you're not in the area, you don't have one. It's just a local, it's just a regular bookstore. It's not even local. It's a corporation, actually. But I'm walking around, and I walk past the philosophy section. It says philosophy on the side of this book, and it's one of the For Dummies version. And the reason that I specifically remember this is because I don't tend to like the For Dummies books. The great thing about them is that there's so many different ones. Just go to the cell phone section or the marketing section or the social media section of your local bookstore and look at the dummy guide books. Oh, dude, there's hundreds. But I'm more of the idiot's guide type of guy. I like the format, even down to the dimensions of the book. Just the overall feel of it I like better. But I don't like a For Dummies book unless I absolutely need to, or it's something and it interests me. So I pick it up off the shelf and I actually look through it. And it interests me, obviously. And so I was like, I'm going to get this, but I wanted to wait till Friday when I get paid, obviously. So fast forward 3 days later. Actually, I have to go over something before we keep moving on. We were going to both bookstores in town, and so after Barnes & Noble, we went to Books A Million. And while I was there, I looked in their philosophy section to see if they had the book as well, to which they did. I just wanted to know if it was cheaper or not, and the one at Books A Million actually had a bent cover, so I was absolutely not getting it there. So I know for a fact that this book was the book that I was looking for. It's the one that I saw. I saw it in 2 different places the same night. Fast forward 3 days later, and then I rose again. But I go back to Barnes & Noble, and I go looking around the section. This is like 15 minutes before they close because I had just gotten out of work. And and I run over to the philosophy section to go and look for it. And, I'm already embarrassed that I'm going to be walking up to the fucking counter with one of those books. Which, I mean, if you like the For Dummies books, I don't hate them. I'm just, I'm picking some fun at them. But I go and I look for it, and it's not there. Crap, I'm gonna have to go over there and be social, and so I walk over to the counter and I'm like, so I'm looking for the philosophy book, the For Dummies guide, and I completely spurged. And she's just like, oh yeah, let me check. And so she looks at it, and as she's looking at it, she starts making this weird face. And so I kind of looked at her in a weird way, noticing that I'd seen her facial expressions. And she is like, well, it says that we don't have it and that we can't even order it, that it's been out of print. And I was like, and that's when I kind of was like, oh, okay. And I was about to leave, but then I mentioned basically what I've said over the course of this video so far. I was like, I came here and I saw it there and it stood out to me. And I was like, I'm going to come back and get this book. It was for sure here at this location. And she was telling me, it's not even possible that I went to another Barnes & Noble because they don't have them at those either. And she started looking into the book, and she was like, yeah, the last time she said, this is a book from 1999. She was like, it's kind of outdated. You might not want it. And then I was starting to think about it. I was like, shit. And so I really have no way to explain what exactly happened, how this book was there. And then absolutely wasn't there, because I told her that it wasn't there after seeing it, obviously. And she was like, well, we can look to see if we've sold one recently, like if someone brought in a used one. And she went and checked that, and she said, no, the last one that they had sold was way back in July. We're in February 2019 right now. Last time they sold it was July 2018. And so I really don't know what to make of this. You could have had some employee that, I'm not meaning this offensively, had autism, like an OCD, and, walked in with his philosophy book because he wanted to read it or something. And instead of, keeping it in his bag, he wanted to card catalog it by number and put it exactly where it goes on the shelf. But he knows that it won't be able to get checked out because it's not one of the store's books. And so he puts it there and then, leaves with the book at the end of that. I don't know. I have no clue how this book showed up and then left out of nowhere. And it's just weird that it would have been there, and that the last time that they sold it was back in July. And so for this book to kind of just show up and disappear, and I looked around the store a good bit, in other sections just in case it got moved, but it was just a pretty strange experience in Barnes & Noble. And so I'd like to know, especially for you who work at bookstores, based on what I've said so far, what I'd like to know what you thought happened, what cases that would happen in. Which I should mention another thing she was talking about, where they go through and like throw away books or do some type of thing where they send a bunch of stuff back to the factory or whatever. But she said that the last time that they had done that was literally a month before. And so this all happened in the span of 3 days. And so this book disappeared. Now, I have not gone back to Books A Million. It'd be kind of weird if I went there and it disappeared too, but if it's still there, I'm still not buying it because it's got a bent cover. I'm a real stickler about my books. I don't like the edges, curling. My girlfriend knows that when, I have my books in the car, she goes to move things, that the spine stays to the back. So in case, the car turns, that I'm a real stickler about that. But either way, pretty weird experience in Barnes & Noble. Just want to put that out there because I also need to buy myself some time. As I said, I'm working on 2 videos. The HYHO final one, which Mikey Slice actually got back to me about that. The other guy, he hasn't. I don't know what's going to happen. But I'm also working on a People Suck video. Now, the one that I was working on, we're going to be putting to the side because tonight, I'm more aware of exactly what I want to make a People Suck video on instead of what I was going to do. So we're going to switch it up. I'm not sure if that's coming out next week or we might have an occult video, but I want to get this out here for now because otherwise you wouldn't have had a video this week. Book from 1999. She was like, it's kind of outdated. You might not. Boy, what's going on with your fucking hair? No way to explain what. Hey everybody, just editing my video that you probably just watched. I apologize so much for having to deal with that little thing. Just editing this video made me want to reach through the computer and rip it off my head. Either way, glad you enjoyed. Back to whatever I was saying. Either way, if you're new here, please consider subscribing, smash that like button. And if you ever see my videos down in the suggested box, go down there and click those ones. And do me a good favor. Either way, I will for you all to prosper. And have a great day.